In the village of Umun, there lived a kind but weary woman named Adana. She resided in a small hut with her only son, Chijioke, who was the light of her life. Adana's husband had perished in a storm, leaving her to care for Chijioke alone. Despite working tirelessly, she could never gather enough food. Each day, she would wake before the sun, gathering firewood, fetching water, and toiling in the dry, cracked soil. Yet, no matter how hard she worked, their hunger never subsided. The village market was no help. Everything was too expensive. Chijioke, once a cheerful boy, had grown weak and quiet, his bright eyes dull with hunger. Adana's heart broke every time she saw his frail body, and though she whispered reassurances deep down, she feared that things would never change. One fateful night, after another exhausting day, Adana sat outside her hut and gazed up at the stars. The moon was full and bright, and the air was still. Tears rolled down her face as she whispered, "I just need one day of peace. One day without hunger, pain, or sorrow." She did not expect an answer, yet something about the night felt different. The wind stopped, the air turned cold, and a shadow emerged from the forest. Adana's heart pounded as the figure, tall and cloaked in black, approached her. "You called for me," it said in a voice as soft as the wind. Trembling, Adana asked, "Who are you?" The figure replied, "I am Death." Fear gripped her, but Death did not move closer. "You wished for rest, and I have come to grant it," it said. Adana hesitated. "Just one day, and then I will return?" Death nodded solemnly. "Yes, but be warned, death is not a game. If you borrow me too often, I may not return you to life." Desperation clouded Adana's judgment, and she agreed. With a single touch to her forehead, the world faded to darkness. The next morning, Chijioke woke to find his mother lying cold and motionless. "Mama!" he cried, shaking her, but she did not stir. Panic filled him as he ran to the villagers, pleading for help. They gathered, mourning her apparent passing. An elder prepared for her burial, but the village's wise healer intervened. "Her spirit has not traveled far. Do not bury her yet. Wait until tomorrow." Though confused, the villagers respected his wisdom. At sunrise, just as the healer had predicted, Adana gasped for breath and opened her eyes. The villagers called it a miracle, but Adana knew the truth. She had borrowed death and returned. At first, she felt grateful. The rest she had experienced was peaceful, free of suffering. But as days passed and hunger gnawed at her once more, she found herself longing for that peace again. One night, unable to bear it any longer, she whispered into the darkness, "Death, I call you again." The cloaked figure appeared, its voice colder this time. "I warned you," Death said. Yet Adana begged for 3 days of rest. Death sighed but agreed. Before surrendering, Adana left Chijioke with a neighbor, telling them she had to travel far. For 3 days, she lay still, experiencing the silence of the other side. On the 4th morning, she awoke, rejuvenated, yet burdened by an unsettling realization. Death had become her escape. Again and again, she borrowed death. Thus, at first, for a day, then 3, then a week. Each time, she ventured deeper into the forest, fearing that one day the villagers might bury her before she could return. Chijioke noticed her frequent disappearances. "Mama, why do you always leave?" he asked one evening. Stroking his hair, she whispered, "To find food for us, my son." But the boy sensed something was wrong. He cried each time she left, afraid she would never return. Still, Adana convinced herself it was for the best. Borrowing debt gave her the strength to endure life for him. One day, overwhelmed by the weight of existence, she borrowed debt for 2 whole weeks. This time, she ventured farther than ever before, lying beneath an ancient tree. "Death, I am ready," she murmured. The icy embrace took her once again, and she drifted into silence. The villagers noticed her absence, but they assumed she had traveled far. Chijioke waited by the door every day, whispering to himself, "Mama will come back." But as the days stretched on, his hope faded. Concerned, the villagers formed a search party. Hours later, they found her body under the tree. "She looks as if she's only sleeping," someone murmured. Yet she was cold and still. Desperate, they carried her to the healer, but this time he shook his head. "Her spirit is gone. Death has taken her for good." Chijioke collapsed in tears as the villagers mourned. The healer revealed the truth. Adana had been borrowing death for a long time, but this time, death refused to return her. The villagers were shocked. Chijioke, drowning in guilt, sobbed, "She was tired because of me." But a kind woman, Mama Nkechi, took him into her arms. "No, child, your mother loved you more than anything. She fought to stay alive for you." Adana was buried beneath a tall tree near the village, and her story became a lesson for all. The killer spoke to the grieving villagers. Life is full of struggles, but death is not the answer. When we are alive, there is hope. Things can change in just one day, but in death there are no second chances. The villagers nodded, their hearts heavy with regret. They vowed to support one another, ensuring that no one else would feel the need to borrow death. Chijioke was taken in by Mama Mechi, who nurtured him with love. Yet, no matter how much warmth surrounded him, he could not stop missing his mother. Every week, he visited her grave, placing fresh flowers and speaking to her as if she could hear him. "Mama, I'm doing well. I miss you. I will make you proud." As the years passed, Adana's story became a part of the village's history. Elders told it to children, reminding them that no matter how hard life seemed, there was always a chance for change. "When we help each other, the pain becomes lighter," they would say. "Even if today is dark, tomorrow may bring light. Never forget the gift of being alive." Chijioke grew into a wise and compassionate young man, dedicated to helping others. To honor his mother's memory, he built a small shrine near her grave, where villagers came to reflect on the value of life. Over time, her story spread beyond the village, inspiring many. One day, as Chijioke stood before the shrine, he whispered, "Mama, I will live as you would have wanted, with hope, with love, with courage." And so, the village of Umun changed forever. No one was left to struggle alone, and kindness became their greatest wealth. Though Adana's choices had led her to a tragic fate, her story served as a guiding light, reminding all who heard it that life, despite its hardships, is always worth living.